Hey readers, I'm so happy you're here to listen to another Read Aloud by me, Mrs. Wingers, where I will read, I will do some thinking, I'll do some writing, and I'll kind of model some of the third grade skills that we work on all year. Now, speaking of third grade skills, something that we start doing in third grade, maybe you did it in second grade, and maybe it'll be more towards fourth grade, but we start kind of getting deeper into chapter books. And so for that reason, I chose to read a chapter book today. This is a book called The Startup Squad by Brian Weisfeld and Nicole C. Kear. Obviously, I'm not going to read the whole chapter book in this read aloud video. I actually haven't even decided if I'm just going to do one chapter as like a sneak peek about the book, or if I plan on making videos for every chapter throughout. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'll think about that more. So as always, I need my materials. I have my book. I have my reader's notebook. I have some sticky notes, and I have a pen. So I have all my materials. Now I need to pick some reading goals. So for that, I'm going to go to the narrative reading progression. I know I need to go to the narrative one because this is a fiction book. Here we have the narrative reading progression. Remember, this is linked to your assignment sheet. So let me scroll down. Okay. Usually when I'm looking for a goal to focus on, I look for something that I haven't practiced a lot. And so if it's here, that means I've practiced it before. Obviously, since this is a brand new book, I am going to do orienting because I do that every time I start a new story. And I'm going to pick another one. Maybe monitoring for sense, establishing point of view. Let's see. Oh, here, word work, word solving. I haven't practiced this one yet, so this one might be important for me. So I'm going to practice orienting, word work, and let's see. Orienting, word work, and how about monitoring for sense? I'm going to write those in my notebook. So every time I start a brand new book, I always do the skill orienting. This is when we do a preview of the title, we read through the chapters and the back blurb to get our brains ready for reading, to kind of get us in the mindset and thinking about what is this book going to be about? Who might the characters be? So I can see from the front cover, it's called The Startup Squad. I know that a squad is like a group of friends, and a startup is like they're entrepreneurs. They like make businesses. I just know that that's what that word means. So this must be a group of friends that makes a business or something. I also see a girl's making a sign that says lemonade. She's got some lemons. So maybe they're going to make a lemonade stand to raise some money. I wonder why they're going to raise the money, or maybe why they need money. So again, here in the title page, you see the friends again. So there's 4 friends, it looks like. No chapter titles, just numbers, so I don't need to look through those. Okay, meet Risa, Harriet, Amelia, and Dee Dee. Together, they're the Startup Squad. Those are the 4 girls' names. Risa is ready to lead. She'll start with the lemonade stand competition assigned to her class, but success won't be easy. The prize, line-skipping tickets to Adventure Central. The competition, Val, Risa's nemesis. The big obstacles, Risa's own teammates. Harriet is the class clown. Amelia is the new girl who thinks she knows best. Dee Dee is Risa's best friend. And none of them know anything about making or selling lemonade. The recipe for success is tough to perfect. But listening to each other is the first step. And making new friends might be the most important one. Okay, so I'm thinking, first when I looked at this picture, I thought, oh, these are all best friends. But now after reading the back blurb, I'm realizing maybe they're not best friends and maybe they have some challenges. I know that Risa and Dee Dee are best friends, but then Harriet and Amelia are the other 2 girls, but maybe they have some problems and they need to figure out how to work together. So I'm going to write that in my notebook. Okay, here we go. Chapter 1. Risa raced up the stairs to homeroom. She hated waiting almost as much as she hated losing. So she leaped up the steps 2 at a time, burst through the door, and crashed into the shoulder of someone who wasn't moving at warp speed. Both of them tumbled to the floor amid a shower of sketchpad papers. An oversized pencil case landed with a thud at Risa's feet. Risa recognized that perfectly sorted case. She borrowed pencils from it pretty much every day. Her best friend Dee Dee was on her knees, picking up her tortoise shell eyeglasses, which had been knocked off. She pushed her long chestnut-colored hair behind her shoulder and shot her friend really, Risa, look. Over the years, Dee Dee had plenty of practice using that look. Sorry, Dee Dee, Risa panted, collecting the paper. Teresa Marie Lopez, Dee Dee said, pretending to scold her. Where is the fire? The fire, said Risa, getting to her feet, is in my gut. Did you put expired milk in your cereal again? Dee Dee said, concerned. You always should check the expiration dates. Risa laughed and extended a hand to pull Dee Dee up. No, I'm just fired up for the announcement. Dee Dee looked at her blankly. Miss Davis is announcing the 6th grade trip today, remember? Oh, yeah, right, said Dee Dee. The girls walked the few remaining steps to their lockers. Risa was on the top row in prime locker real estate, which she was grateful for because who wanted to crouch down clumsily every time you had to grab a notebook? Of course, Dee Dee, whose locker was on the bottom row, a few doors over, didn't seem to mind. But then again, there was a whole world, a whole galaxy of stuff that Dee Dee didn't seem to mind, but drove Risa crazy. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second because even though this isn't my reading goal, I think it's important to collect some information about the characters. So we've met Dee Dee and Risa, who we know as Teresa, and I'm just going to write down some of the things I'm thinking about each of those girls. Okay, so on this page I wrote, I'll zoom in a little bit. The characters we've met are Risa and Dee Dee. Dee Dee, we know she's fast, competitive, she likes to do things quickly. Dee Dee seems a lot more easygoing, and I just wrote this little note that they are BFFs. An elaborate collage covered the inside of Risa's locker door. There were photos of Risa with Dee Dee, plus photos with her mom, dad, and her little brother, Ricky. At the center of the photo was Serena Williams hurtling herself toward a tennis ball, her racket frozen in the moment just before the hit. Looking at that photo always energized Risa for the day ahead. So did the postcard taped to the top of the door, which her mom had sent her at sleepaway camp last summer. It read, "A woman is like a tea bag. You can't tell how strong she is until you put her in hot water." Risa tossed her jean jacket into the locker and grabbed her science, math, and social studies textbooks. Maybe the 6th grade trip will be to the art museum in the city, Dee Dee said hopefully. She hung her hand-knit sweater on a little locker hook. The inside of her locker door was bare, except for a small mirror. She inspected her reflection, fixing a wonky wave in her hair. Risa groaned. Ugh, I hope not. The art museum's more boring than school. All those portraits of old guys. Ugh, you seen one, you seen them all. She slammed her locker closed. Maybe it'll be to the science museum. The one with the bed of nails you can lie on? Oh, that would be amazing. Dee Dee shuddered. I still have nightmares about that. It doesn't hurt, Risa exclaimed. Because of physics, I think. I'm fuzzy on the details. Risa, unable to wait a second longer for Dee Dee to fix her already fine hair, shut Dee Dee's locker for her. Hey, objected Dee Dee. I wasn't done. Yes, you were, said Risa, yanking on Dee Dee's hand and pulling her down the hallway. Your hair looks great. Dee Dee started to protest, but Risa had let go of her hand to run the last few steps to homeroom. She could tell from the din that the classroom was beginning to fill up. So much for getting to school early. Okay, I came across a word here, the din. that I'm not really sure what it means. And since one of my goals is word work, I'm going to collect some evidence about how I'm going to figure out what that means. So my first job is to identify the word here, din, and since I don't know what it means, I'm going to reread that part and see if I can figure it out. Dee Dee started to protest, but Risa had let go of her hand to run the last few steps to homeroom. She could tell from the din that the classroom was beginning to fill up. So much for getting to school early. Din. So the din must be, she could tell from the din that the classroom was beginning to fill up. I'm wondering if din means like quietness or a calmness, because I'm picturing in my mind a classroom filling up. And I know that when that happens, sometimes it can get quiet, or maybe it could get loud. Okay, let me write it. Sometimes we can't figure out what words mean just based on the context clues, meaning like when you reread it and try to figure out what it means. So I put a note in there that I'm going to look it up later. Don't let me forget. Okay, let me find my place. Every morning she rushed to homeroom to beat Val there, and every morning she failed. No matter how early she was, Val was always earlier. Sometimes Risa wondered if Val slept at school just to come in first every time. Sure enough, Val was there next to Miss Davis's desk, stapling packets like the helpful assistant she was. From the outside, Val looked harmless. She was tiny, even shorter than Risa, who was one of the smallest kids in their homeroom. She had flaming red hair, worn in a pixie cut so you could see every one of her freckles in her tiny, pointy fairy nose. In her t-shirt with a blue sequins peace sign on the front, Val looked as sweet as cotton candy. But Risa knew better. She was tough. She was as tough as that bed of nails Dee Dee had nightmares about. Whatever the competition was, Val was in it to win it, and she almost always did. Okay, I'm going to pause there. A couple things. One, we are introduced to a new character, which I knew from my orienting that is kind of like the person that Risa, not the villain, but like she butts heads with, her opponent. And then also I noticed some really good writing, so I'm just going to take a note about that. When they said Val looked as sweet as cotton candy. Like, I thought that was a really interesting way to describe a character. So I'm just going to put a little note there. Val looked up from her stapling as Risa ran in. Late again, huh? She asked with a smirk. Homeroom hasn't even started yet. Risa shot to the back as she raced to the seat she'd been sitting in all year, next to Dee Dee's. Do you know what Shakespeare said about punctuality? No, but I'm sure you're going to tell me. Better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late, Val said in a patronizing tone. Then she hit the stapler especially hard, as if to emphasize her point. Okay, another word, patronizing. Let's add that to our word work section and do some work to think about what it might mean. First, I'll reread it. Better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late, Val said in her most patronizing tone. Then she hit the stapler especially hard, as if to emphasize her point. So what I'm thinking about Val, and I'm doing some envisioning work here, I'm seeing that she's kind of so she said in her most patronizing tone. Tone means like the way we sound when we speak. So I'm wondering if patronizing means like, oh, what word would I use here? Like a I'm better than you tone. So yeah, that's what I think it means. So I'm going to write that down in my word work. Risa started to tell Val that she was a minute too late in shutting up. Thankfully, at that moment, Miss Davis gestured for Val to take her seat in Where else? The front row. And she called her class to order. Miss Davis wasn't the most popular teacher in the 6th grade. A lot of kids thought she was too strict, but Risa liked her no-nonsense attitude. She talked fast, got to the point, and expected kids to deliver. Some teachers, with enough tears and excuses, could be persuaded to let things slide. This was not Miss Davis. You could cry her a river about how your guinea pig died and you were too devastated to take the math quiz, but Miss Davis would just hand you a tissue and say, "I've heard geometry helps grief." That teacher sounds funny. Risa didn't always see eye to eye with her, and they'd had plenty of clashes, but Risa still liked her. Today, she stood in front of the class in her usual uniform, a pair of black pants, a crisp button-down shirt, and smudge-free black eyeglasses. "Good morning," said Miss Davis. "Let's settle down, please. I want to talk to you about the 6th grade trip and fundraising project." Risa, bubbling over with anticipation, tapped her toes, clad in red Converse on the floor. Clad, there's another word that I'm not sure what it means. Bubbling over with anticipation, tapped her toes, clad in red Converse. Well, I know that red Converse are a type of shoe, so clad must be another word for like tapped her toes inside of red Converse on the floor. It's like her toes are inside of her shoes. So I substituted a word to see if it made sense. Clad must mean inside of. I'm going to quickly write that down. Miss Davis shot her a cut it out look. Her toes froze. "I'm excited to tell you that for the 6th grade trip, you'll be going to..." Miss Davis paused, enjoying the rare moment of silence in the classroom. "Adventure Central!" The class erupted into whoops and cheers and laughter. Risa could hardly contain her excitement. Roller coasters were high on her list of favorite things, right below tennis and high-stakes gin rummy. She had spent hours researching the world's best roller coasters, and it was her dream to ride every single one. Adventure Central didn't have any world-famous coasters, but it had some good ones nonetheless. And she never got to go as often as she wanted because her little brother Ricky was terrified of amusement parks. "Listen up," called Mrs. Davis. This is an expensive trip. You'll need to raise money to pay for it. So the whole grade will be taking part in a fundraising contest. You've been grouped into teams, and each team will run a lemonade stand. All the proceeds will go toward the trip. Now, for the really fun part. She waited for the chattering to die down before she continued. The team that earns the most money will win VIP tickets. Let me reread that. The team that earns the most money will win VIP tickets to Adventure Central. "What's that mean exactly?" Risa called out. "As always," Miss Davis said, "I'm happy to take questions if you raise your hand." Risa raised her hand and repeated the question. Miss Davis consulted a piece of paper in the front of her. "VIP tickets include free concessions, signature Adventure Central t-shirt and sun visor, and a pack of 4 Quick Ticks." Even Mrs. Davis couldn't stop a celebratory cheer from breaking out. Risa swiveled to Dee Dee and grabbed her arm. "Indra, sing," she said, looking at her best friend hard in the eyes. "I must win this contest." Dee Dee nodded. "Okay." "You don't understand." Risa shook her head. "Quick Ticks allow you to completely skip the lines, so you don't have to waste all day waiting." Dee Dee nodded. "Yeah, sounds cool." She liked the carousel at Adventure Central, and if she was feeling daring, maybe the Ferris wheel. But the prospect of riding a bona fide roller coaster made her feel a little queasy. So Quick Ticks were pretty much useless to her. But she could see that they were something important to Risa. And when something was important to Risa, it was important to Dee Dee. That's what it meant to be best friends. Miss Davis clapped to get everyone's attention. "The contest starts this weekend. I'm passing out packets with all the info you'll need, including team assignments." She handed a large stack of papers to Val to distribute. Do not, I repeat, do not ask me to change your team assignments. There will be no switching. There will be no trading. There will be no changes of any kind made. Are we clear? There were calls of, yeah, okay. And from Val, a chirpy, crystal clear, Miss Davis. Good, said Miss Davis. One more thing. Be sure to plan your stand ahead of time. The more you plan this week, the less work you'll have on the weekend. If you wait until the last minute to get organized, it may not go so smoothly. I know some of you tend to procrastinate. Miss Davis raised her eyebrows and gave the students the you know who you are look before finishing. Don't procrastinate with this one. She clapped her hands together. Okay, that's it. Good luck. Okay, procrastinate was used twice in this section. Let me read it again. I know some of you tend to procrastinate. Don't procrastinate with this one. So it's like the whole thing she's telling the students not like to get some work done early. So I'm wondering if procrastinate maybe means like wait till the last minute, right? She's saying don't procrastinate. So that must mean waiting till the last minute. I'm going to add that to my word work as another challenging word that I've tackled. Dee Dee turned to Risa. I hope we're on the same team. Me too, Risa agreed. And I hope I'm not with Harriet. What's wrong with Harriet? Dee Dee asked. Sure, she's funny, said Risa, but totally unreliable. I mean, she's not even here yet. She hasn't been on time for homeroom once this whole year. She gestured to Harriet's empty seat by the door. Dee Dee shrugged. I like her. You like everybody. Not true. Dee Dee felt defensive, even though she wasn't sure what was wrong with liking everyone. I don't like Clyde. Clyde is a nightmare of epic proportions, said Risa. That doesn't count. And that new girl, Amelia, she weirds me out. They both glanced at the back row, where Amelia sat in her seat, staring straight ahead. She looked like a marble statue, with her pale gray and totally unwrinkled shirt, perfect posture, and her straight blonde hair tucked neatly behind her ears. She's so, Dee Dee said. I don't know. Snotty, stuck up, totally antisocial, Risa offered. I was going to say quiet. Val finally arrived at Risa's desk. She flashed Risa a smile and said, good luck, as she handed over a packet. She didn't speak the words, you'll need it, out loud, but that's exactly what her smile said. The top page of the packet listed the members of each team. Risa scanned the page for her name. There it was at the bottom. And here's the group. Indra Singh, that's Dee Dee, Amelia Grant, Harriet Nugent, and Teresa Lopez. Okay, one of my goals was monitoring for sense, and I didn't do that a ton as I was reading, but now that I finished this first chapter, I can just kind of check in and ask, did most of this make sense? Am I following the story? So I'll just write a few sentences about that. Okay, so as I said in the beginning, I'm not really sure if I'm going to read all the chapters in this book or if I was just going to start with the first chapter to give you a preview, and then maybe you can borrow it if it sounds like something you'd want to read. Or should I read more chapters on the read aloud? Let me know so that I know what to do next. Or if there's another book that you really want me to read, let me know. I am happy to read anything that you suggest. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Happy reading!